former writer for Hyde Park Herald. So the first speaker is Anne-Marie Miles, if we can give her a hand.
So I'm Anne-Marie Miles. As many of you know, I ran in 2011 and 2015. Almost got Leslie into a runoff, but this man over here has succeeded in doing that, so I'm very excited. And I'm supporting Will, and the reason is that what prompted me originally to run was actually the parking lot down on South Shore. And Leslie took $75,000 of board money, and she bought 6 months of free parking spaces for the people who lived in the co-ops and condos along the lake. And I just thought that we really have to focus on our young people. And although I was one of the people who could have benefited from a parking pass, instead of saying, oh yes, let me go get one, it was like, that's it, she's provoked me into running and I'm gonna go complain about her. But instead we have a gentleman here who was able to, when he heard about what had happened to Laquan McDonald, he was able to force the city to release the videotape. And that certainly led to the conviction of Van Dyke, who never would have been convicted if the videotape had not been released. It led to the consent decree, and it led to, I think, the beginnings of conversations about how the police interact with the citizens of different races in this city. And this is a conversation I think we have to have. We have to bring in someone who can make changes, who has proven that he can work within the system, and who also is not just out, kind of being radical and forcing things, but really I watched Will as they were getting ready for the verdict, really making sure that the city was not going to explode, and that even if we didn't get a verdict that we were 100% happy with, that there would be peace and we would continue to operate within the system as we changed it. And so I think Will is the best person for us, and I'm hoping that you all will support him, not only by voting for him, giving him money, but going and telling all of your neighbors, because the thing that we need to do is to get the word out. We have a real opportunity for change in the 5th Ward, and I'm looking forward to it. So I ask you, let's give Will a hand. And now, Will, you picked up some of the mantles, so go on.
Good evening, everybody. I am so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here with Will. I'll say a few words, but the most important thing to just sort of recognize and realize is that I'm standing here with my friend Will Calloway, and we're working together to achieve the second act of what we've already really achieved. In essence, the only thing that has to happen is people have to recognize the potential of what we've accomplished already. We've beaten Leslie Hairston. So for people who have any challenges with this alderman, any frustration with somebody who shows up 31% of the time to work, but still gets to make 6 figures a year, anyone who tells you that the 311 system is the way that we're going to make sure that things are handled in our communities, instead of dealing with phone calls about problems like a branch hanging over a house dangerously for 4 years, if those things don't make sense to you, if that's the person you don't think should be working for us, we've already achieved a more than 50% agreement that someone else should be in there. And we've already determined that somebody else should be Will Calloway. I'm here to say I'm going to do what I can to make sure he gets in. He's the man for the job. I've watched Will work together. The two of us look at we've got great footage on Facebook Live of forums we've done together. There's other material that you can look at. We would step down from forums and be approached by the people who organize them, and they would say, can't you be a little more aggressive? And we would say, no, we can't, sorry to disappoint you, but we're here to do something together. When Will and I would see each other, the first thing we'd say is under 50%. We had a focus that together we were going to achieve something, and that was above and beyond. And as Anne-Marie said, or somebody said earlier, we hear that a lot. that unity, change. These are the words that we hear as part of campaign slogans. But you can see already the proof in the work. Campaigns reveal the qualities of the character of the people who lead them. And so Will consistently led a positive campaign that was about ideas, about progress, about change, not speaking negatively in ways that were, negative advertising or just to slam somebody. Where critique had to happen, it did happen. But where he could speak positively about a vision for the future, that's where he preferred to be. And I think that's why he is where he is now. And I'm urging all of you, and again, as Anne-Marie said, the key now is to make sure we talk to our friends, because we understand and know that we need a change. There's somebody in position to have that change happen. We know that more than 50% of people who voted agree with us. So what's going to stop this from actually taking place? If we don't make the effort to engage with our friends and neighbors and say, hey, you did it one time, you can do it again. Go out to people who didn't vote, because a lot of people won't vote for somebody even though they want that change, because they'll think, and I can tell you, as the editor of a newspaper for 2 election cycles, I heard people say, I know Leslie's got to be out of there. I know we need someone else, but I don't think any of these people can do the job. So people will not vote, or they'll vote for a candidate they don't even like, because psychologically they think they're beat already. So let's make sure we're talking to everyone, saying, take a look at what happened. We have a real chance here. We are already at, what are we at, 51.5%? We're over 50%. We just have to make sure that everybody who went out before goes out again, and let's make that 60%, 70%, because there are people who want to change, but who were reluctant, who were skeptical, who were unsure that we could do it. Well, Will's done it. He's made it happen. Let's get over that finish line. We just have a few weeks away. I will tell you, I campaigned for a while in this ward. It is hard and it is expensive. So please, if you've got money, if you can support him financially, you've got to do it. Not talking to people, thinking that somebody else is going to do it, or that like an email from you, for example, wouldn't be that big a deal. Don't underestimate yourselves. We need to all think of ourselves as critical pieces of this puzzle, that we're all getting together to support Will. And so I want to ask you to do anything you can. I really want to say again, if you can do anything financially, $5, $10 can make a difference. If you can do more, that really helps. And thank you so much. Have a great evening. And I'm excited to hear more from my friend Will Calloway.
And let's give another round of applause for Mr. Piemonte. All right, Owen.
All right, Owen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For those who do not know me, my name is William Calloway. I am a community organizer. I am the executive director of a non-for-profit entitled Christianeer. Couple things about my non-for-profit is that we actually specialize in violence prevention strategies and social justice, and quite frankly, I'm happy to be here, and I thank you again, Gabe, for those kind words. I met Mr. Piemonte, I want to say about a year ago. Yeah. He came on 71st Street. I was like, who is this white man on 71st Street? He just had such a compelling story, and his vigor for wanting to contribute to the community. And also, I really gravitated towards him because of his intelligentsia and the policies and ideas that he wanted to bring to the community. And quite frankly, his dislike for the incumbent, but for righteous reasons, right? So I really appreciate Gabe. As he just previously stated, me and him together made up 51% of the vote. So that really speaks volume. He is, of course, one of the reasons why we're in a runoff, because of his percentage of the votes on February 26th. So I thank you. It's not easy running a race. It's not easy running it against a 20-year incumbent, and I applaud you. And I thank you for your servitude to this community, and I look forward to working with you. Win or lose, brother. So thank you again. So can we give another round of applause for him? Miss Anne-Marie, now this is a funny story. Me and Anne-Marie actually first met because I challenged her when I was running for state representative. And I didn't know her, but when we got to know each other, her heart, she just has such a huge heart and just a global perspective about life and what it takes to serve community. And that's something that I always liked and will continue to like and admire about her. And just her willingness to just really sacrifice and give back, her counsel that she gives me anytime that I need it. I'm indebted to you for that. Thank you so much for believing in me. When the odds were stacked against me, you still supported me. And I'm grateful for that. So can y'all please give a round of applause? All right. So I'm not going to hold you all long because I know it's Saturday night. I definitely appreciate you all for sacrificing coming out tonight. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. Give you a little bit of insight about my vision and plans moving the 5th Ward into a new direction. Personally, I want to speak, so this is going to be twofold, so bear with me. I definitely want to speak from a universal 5th Ward perspective, but if I can talk from a more focal point as a South Shore 5th Ward perspective. I'm from South Shore, been a resident of South Shore for about 10 years now, and one of the things that is really plaguing our community is that we have been in 6 consecutive years without a grocery store. The incumbent has been there for 20 years. Out of those 20 years, we, the seniors, our community residents that struggle with disabilities, our single mothers that have to travel in the dread of snow, are not able to get access to fresh fruits, produce, vegetables, none of the above. 6 consecutive years without a grocery store. The incumbent, and this is not my words, this is the words of the community. The incumbent has disrespected the intelligence of the ward by conveniently saying 2 weeks before the election, a shop and save is coming to the community. Not only is that disrespectful and convenient, but the shop and save is not a full service grocery store. So you're giving us crumbs. We're already starving, and then when we do give us something, you give us crumbs. That's point one. 71st Street was once a thriving economic corridor. If you go down 71st Street today, it looks like something similar to a third world, in my personal opinion, a third world country. We have blight, all right? You walk down, you see windows with still bullet holes still in them, not boarded up. You walk and see community members that's suffering from PTSD, mental illness, panhandlers on 71st Street trying to make a living, but there's no civic leadership to bring economy to 71st Street. And that's the field leadership. 71st Street and South Shore is one of the most deadliest neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. And we know this. I intentionally placed my campaign office on 71st and Chappelle. For that very reason, I believe in positive loitering. I believe that we have to, as people, as community residents, we have to interrupt violence by being there, being a positive beacon, being a positive light. On that intersection on 71st Street, let me be the one to tell you that in the past 2 years, there has been 10 shootings and 4 homicides on that very corner where my office is at. And this incumbent has failed to provide any type of plan or vision to curb the violence, not just on 71st Street, but throughout the ward. One thing that I can promise you, that when I'm elected, I would take my skills, my organizing skills that I've been trained and taught to interrupt violence using the methods of the custom notifications. That's when myself, or a social service agent, or myself, and a Chicago police officer goes to these young men and women houses and talk to them about how can we get you out of the streets? How can we get you out of a life of crime? Do you need housing relocation? Do you need mental wellness? What do you need? How can we help you? How can we provide you with wraparound services? That's something that is not being offered to the constituents in the 5th Ward. That's a little bit about South Shore. It's way more than that, but that's just a little bit. Lastly, one of the things that I feel that is really plaguing our community is the fact that a lot of us feel that the constituency services in South Shore are being focused on other neighborhoods besides us. And that's not equity. We have to make sure that the Fifth Ward knows that not one neighborhood is better than the other, that we all deserve the right to all equity. The constituency services should be spread equally to Woodlawn, to South Shore, to Grand Crossing, to South Shore, to Grand Crossing, to Woodlawn, to Hyde Park. And that's something that I promise that I will restore when I am elected. Okay? There's some things in city council that needs to be focused on. We need some more vigorous energy down there. We need some fresh, innovative voices that's gonna speak out against corruption, that's gonna hold your colleagues accountable when you see them doing something wrong. That is something that we're not having right now in city council. No one is challenging the status quo. I said this when Jason Van Dyke was convicted. No elected official showed up for us. Not one. We went to court for a month straight. A month straight, every day. Not one elected official showed up for us. Now, it's elected officials now that's using Laquan's situation for TV ads. But let me be the first to tell you, live and in living color, no one showed up for us. It was the community, it was the organizers, it was the activists that showed up for that. We have to acknowledge the moment, the watershed moment that we're in right now. This is the first time in her 20-year tenure that she has ever been forced into a runoff. Y'all can make some noise for that. This is the first time that she has ever been forced into a runoff. And largely so is because of the work and just being discontent with her services as an alderman. But this is the first time, and we have to capitalize on this moment. We might not get another moment again like this. This is why it's so important for us to seize this opportunity that we have on today. In 24 days, we have to make sure that all our loved ones, our family, our friends that live in the Fourth Ward, if they're not registered to vote, get them registered to vote. They can register and vote the day of. Make sure they get to the polls. Make sure they get to the polls. We cannot lose this race because I think there's a plan for our community that doesn't involve the grassroots, the everyday people like us. That's why I'm a strong proponent for a community benefits agreement. The incumbent is not. I promise when I'm elected, I will continue to fight and leverage my Aldermanic seat to fight to ensure that we have a CBA, to ensure that the Obama Foundation know that no, you do not run our community. The decisions that we need to make is going to be amongst us collectively. Am I missing anything? That's a lot of things.
What about Cornell Drive?
That's a great question. I believe, right, that he said, what about Cornell Drive? Listen, we've never been against the Obama Center coming. We welcome it. We think it's a great gesture for our 44th president. But what we have been against is the city planning. And I think the city planning does not reflect the community. And the closure of Cornell Drive speaks to that. 70,000 motorists, daily motorists, will be affected because of that. I think these decisions are being made from people who are not from our community. Because if you're driving southbound on Lakeshore Drive from 4 to 5 p.m., the fact that you can even fathom thinking about closing Cornell Drive is just unexplainable, right? So that's something I would definitely fight against, is the closure of Cornell Drive. One thing that I also want to make sure that we continue to be inclusive about is participatory budgeting. We as a community should have a say-so on how the menu money is allocated through the neighborhoods. We need a transparent process to know where each dollar is being spent inside of our wards, something that is not being done on today. And when I'm elected, that is something that I continue. I will promise I will promise to make sure that it continues to stay transparent and then it's inclusive, that we bring people from all around the ward together to make sure that this money is being allocated equally all across the ward in a transparent manner. All right. So also, I do on the school side, I do want to make sure that it's noted that I do support an elected school board. I think it's important. Again, we've been through 4 CEOs in the past 4 years, I believe. 2 of them, one of them had to step down for ethical violations. The other one was indicted on federal corruption charges. All of them was appointed by the same person. Nobody in city council ever raised their voice to speak out against this. And this is the type of complacency that I'm saying we have to together as a community speak out against. And this is why it's important that we support an elected school board. Now, on the city level, it's not nothing really too much that we can do, but we do have fresh legislators. Curtis Tarver is one of them. Who's in 26? Buckman. Okay. Robert Peters on the Senate side.
Yeah.
But these state legislators, we need to make sure that we hold them accountable and let them know we need you to champion for an elected school board on the state level. That's something that I can promise I will do once I'm elected. And speak, no doubt. And speaking on Peters, I know Brother Piemonte was there when he was appointed. Again, the process of even appointing senatorial leadership, that's a problem. The incumbent, along with Tony Preckwinkle, went in a closed-door meeting without community input, am I right? And appointed Kwame Raoul's successor, right? So, again, we have to make sure that we remove these people out of office who do not have our best interests at heart when it comes to transparency and when it comes to making sure that it is inclusive when it comes to decision making in the 5th Ward of Chicago. All right? I think that's about it. I'm gonna open it up to Q&A. I'm sure some things I probably did not touch on, including TIFs. How many people know what TIFs are? All right. That's a whole conversation we can have a class on. All right. I personally believe that, listen, I truly believe that when Harold Washington, fun fact, Harold Washington is the one who introduced the TIF program to Chicago. That's a fun fact a lot of people do not know. TIFs were originally used, right, for blighted communities. Now, the thing that my team was having a discussion on today is how do you define blighted? Because Navy Pier to me is not blighted, right? Mm-hmm. I got to understand what's the definition of blighted. Us too, Ms. Wallace. So we have to make sure that we use this aldermanic seat to make the state legislature define the word blighted. Because as of right now, I personally feel that this especially under the current mayoral administration, even though it's on his exodus, that the TIF program should be sunsetted. And then the money that's existing now should go to the schools. It should go plug in budgetary shortfall. Yeah. That's what I believe. Until we can reform this TIF system, which is completely broken, it should be absolutely sunsetted, and we should move forward from it.
So would you oppose the proposed $900 million Lincoln Yards TIF?
Let me tell you something. That shouldn't even been an option to even be voted on in the first place. And I think the Sun-Times did a wonderful article speaking on it. How this $900 million, close to $1 billion going to the north side, but not even a grocery store in South Shore. Mm-hmm. That's not equity. You understand? That's not equity. And no one in city council is speaking up against these things. Again, the incumbent, right? We had a forum. The incumbent tried to say she couldn't do certain things because her aldermanic power only let her do so much. I was a private citizen, me and Brandon Smith, and we forced the videotape out. Don't tell me what you can't do if you use your voice. I don't want anyone to ever believe that, because I believe that the power is ultimately with the people. As long as we can convene and unite and use the power that we have with each other, we can change this ward. We can make it the most conscious, the most progressive. How many people know who Leon Dupree was?
We're his neighbors.
Somebody, Leon Dupree.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know. He was.
On this corner, they do.
They do. So Leon was an alderman in the 5th Ward back when Big Daley was the mayor, and he was very progressive. He spoke out against a lot of Daley's policies and ordinances. It was a time when the 5th Ward was probably coined the most progressive ward in the city of Chicago. When you vote with Rahm Emanuel 100% of the time, that's not progressive. When you take hundreds of thousands of dollars from corporations and developers like Mac Property, that's not progressive. I can sit here and tell you right now that I have not and will not, when I'm elected, I have not and will not take any campaign donations from any developers or any corporations whatsoever. Every dollar that we have raised, every dollar that we have raised came off grassroots donations. I'm a believer in grassroots change. It was the tad bit that everybody was chipping in. Because when I walk in city council, I want to walk in beholden to nobody but you all. I don't want to walk in there beholden to any super PACs, to any corporations, to even some of the unions are working in their own self-interest. I want to walk into city council pure and clean. And that's what I promise to continue to do. I will never, ever hold me to my word. Y'all see my quarterly reports. Y'all see any type of donations from a developer, you come check me on that. Because I give you my word, I will never, ever accept any money from any developer, whether they're in the ward or outside the ward. And that's a promise to you all. I believe in independence. I believe in transparency. And I want to state it, I want to keep it that way. I want to restore to the 5th Ward what we have lost. I want to make sure that we can be the example to the rest of the 49 wards in the city of Chicago. And I want to provide that, all right? But I can't do it unless I have y'all help. So April 2nd, 24 days, I think, from today, we need to get back out there and vote again. Again, I thank my friend Gabriel for his support. Hopefully we can combine our voting blocks and get people out to vote. I'm really proud with, it wasn't the best turnout, but it was 42%. And we had an uptick in voter turnout, so that's something that I'm kind of content with, but we can do a whole lot better. So with these last few minutes, I just want to open it up to Q&A. If anybody have any questions, I would love to answer. Yes, ma'am. And if you could say your name and then what neighborhood you're from.
I'm Ginny Cook, and I'm a quarter of a block that way. You're taking on a lot. I mean, you're really talking about a lot of visions and plans.
Yes, ma'am.
What are you going to do when your sister mayor turns off your mic like they did for Leon Dupree?
My sister mayor, protest. Nah, I'm just playing. Well, we have to find out ways to make sure that our voices are heard. I mean, it's more than one way to skin a cat. I believe there's more than one ways that we can make sure our voices are heard. We've made a way in these past several years for the nation to hear our voice, not just our aldermen or our city council, but the country. So we'll find ways to make sure and ensure that our voices are being heard.
Well, this, not only in Aldermanic elections, but we're the ones who have been subjected to having Jesse Jackson as our representative, with no communication whatsoever. Kwame Raoul with limited communication, mostly around election time. I'm wondering how you're going to keep us informed so that we can support you and not find out, as I did after the election, that our representative didn't even put in legislation for us. If you look at the pattern of the 50 legislators and what they put in for their community, our representative was way below the middle, and had almost nothing that she had done. I was shocked, because we've heard a lot of talk, and we've been involved in some planning. So how can we stay communicating so that you let us know what you're doing, what is needed, how we can help, all the kinds of things that we have to be that vibrant community?
Okay, so I think one thing that I come from an organizing background, and one of the things that I've been trained, I like to believe well trained in, is community outreach. That's something I feel like I've been very well trained in. So constituency services, right, and responsiveness will be one of our top priorities. All right, raise your hand, Bobby. Bobby is my campaign manager. We are working to develop some ideas from the community on how we can make sure that every aspect of the community is well documented, right? Well tracked, and make sure that it's a response for everyone. That's something that the incumbent has failed to do.
You're going to be swamped.
Huh?
You're going to be swamped.
Well, that's what the staff is for. It's not just and computers. One thing that we was entertaining as well is, I said this at a forum, is that one of my friends, Maurice Robinson, he's an application developer, right? He developed apps for your devices. And what I would like to do is explore creating a Fifth Ward app where you can go on there and we can make it, for people that's not technologically savvy as myself sometimes, we can make it friendly to those, that they can go on there and they can place anything that might be going on in the community they want to address. They can go on the app and we can track all of those issues on the application. So that's one thing, but I believe in responsiveness, and that's something that, again, the incumbent has failed to do time and time again. Owen.
Yeah, two things. One, I'm sure you're very familiar with that CPAC. The second one, I'm seeing signs in the neighborhood, and I don't know anything like it. It says, "Keep Tiger out of our woods." What's that all about?
Tiger Woods. Yeah, the golf course.
It's coyotes in the woods too. Y'all ain't seen that. You make sure you keep tiger and coyotes out. I think it's really. So the CPAC Owen is talking about is an ordinance that was filed these past couple of years to ensure that we can have an elected police council, right? Because as of right now, all 7 to 9 members of the police board are appointed by the mayor. So with that CPAC ordinance, it will make sure that all 22 districts are elected, that we can have an elected representative from each one. Now the caveat in that is the FOP union. How many people know who the FOP union is? Yeah. It's the police union. The FOP union is the people that really, they bankroll Jason Van Dyke's whole defense, right? They have a lot of money. All right, so the only caveat with the CPAC that I support the idea, but we have to ensure that we can bankroll our own people as well. Because what happened is that the FOP will identify somebody for each district and bankroll their own people, and now they have complete control over that electoral process. So I support it. Now, as far as the Tiger Woods, the tiger that you're referring to, the Tiger Woods. I think that's a part of like privatization of what he wants to do, make Jackson Park, the golf course right there, PGA style ready. I'm not really for that, but again.
You say this also possibly addressing the South Dakota culture.
Yeah, I think they're trying to privatize, if I'm not mistaken. They want to privatize the cultural center. It's a gem that we have to fight for that. We cannot allow that to happen under no circumstances.
What about the young folks? I grew up, I was on 71st and Cordell back in 1964. Been over there, Jeffrey Page, or something. There's a lot of young folks standing around. There's no program. They don't even put down lines of baseball. And we used to be able to go to the field houses and get bags and gloves and things like that. Would you work with the park districts to make sure that they are equally funded and the young folks have opportunities as everyone else with teams and equipment?
Absolutely. I think the South and West Side parks are some of the most underfunded parks in the city of Chicago, and that's something that we have to change. We have to work together as a community with the park district to ensure that. That's something I'm willing to sit with the community to ensure that happens. Okay, absolutely, Gabriel.
I just want to say something real quick behind that, the question of funding in the parks. So Will, of course, is absolutely right. We're underfunded on the south and west sides, but it is also kind of an open secret that our alderman is one of the least liked aldermen by the Chicago Park District. If you've ever tried to get anything done, I have had the unfortunate circumstances of working well with the park district, and then they say, okay, where is that located? Oh, it's in 5, too bad. So what Will has been able to accomplish today in terms of bringing people together, that, temperament is a huge thing, and we don't always, it's hard to measure, it's hard to know exactly how effective it is or isn't. But in this case, we really need somebody with a different temperament in office, who doesn't have every department mad at her, and so we don't get work done.
Hey man, that's true. Yeah, believe this or not, somebody called our campaign office and they said they was with e-groceries, right? And he told me that when he was trying to get development, he was trying to acquire the grocery store in 2013-14. He said Leslie Harrison went down to city council and slandered their organization. Said that they was gonna have bulletproof glasses between the cashiers and the people that was coming to shop there. And I think, again, to Gabriel's point, this is the personality type of the incumbent. And she turns off so many people. And I don't know if it's because of the complacentness. She's been there for 20 years. And again, that goes to my point. Again, I'm gonna promise you all this. I would term limit myself. I don't believe no one should be in office for 20 consecutive years in the same city. Nobody. So that's something that right now I will say, and I will hold me to it. Now, when I go down here, listen, I'm flesh and blood. I'm not perfect. This is why you have to have an accountability system around you. I need you all to be my accountability system. I don't want to be like her. Maybe she did start off good and lost her way. I don't know. But I don't want to go down there and lose my way. That's why you have to stay on me. Make sure you come to the ward meetings. Mr. Calloway, what's going on with this? Mr. Calloway, Alderman Calloway, what's going on with that? Hold me accountable. But 2 terms, that's it. And then I will move forward with whatever God has for me next. Brother Favors.
My name is Devon Favors. South Shore. Last year, I tried to work with the incumbent to get proper signage from 67th to 71st, Jeffrey to South Shore, which is about a 36-block radius. The signage was to prevent to get a $60 ticket next to a stop sign. I got 2 on the corner of 70th and Paxton. Emailed the incumbent's office, sent the data from 2007 to 2017, $5.2 million of parking ticket revenue between 67th and 71st,
Wow.
Jeffrey and South Shore Drive. $5.2 million. I did Roscoe Village, the entirety of Roscoe Village. Same time, 2007 to 2017, $3.6 million. So that's a 36-block radius in South Shore where I live. The signs will prevent my neighbors and myself from getting a $60 ticket next to a stop sign. The cost of the stop signs is $13,000. Leslie Harrison told me, through her staff member, she was not putting up the signs because it would take parking spaces away from the current residents. When in reality, the parking spaces are not ours if we're continuing to get tickets. Right. So I went the logic. The logic. So I went, started a petition. Still to this day, it has 101 signatures. I was fortunate enough to get the attention of Dorothy Tucker from CBS 2. We did 3 stories. A majority of the signs are up, but I want you to think about this. Republica has a website out, Loud and Now. 5th Ward, within a 4-year time, has over $50 million worth of parking ticket revenue. Whoa. From the city.
Jesus Christ.
So think about that and tell your neighbors this is all information. If you want to find out where her money is, where she gets her money, IllinoisSunshine.org.
That's right.
IllinoisSunshine.org. Tells you stories for every single elected official in the state. Your alderman, your state rep, your mayor. We have to be informed. We can no longer shut our minds and our doors to complacency and thinking that we don't have power. But we do have power. So April 2nd, we got a choice.
That's right.
This is our bank accounts. We're fighting. So you have to take Steve, take responsibility, and not leave because they want everyone to leave. So please stay informed. Information is out there.
Man, I want to take make some noise for that. I want to take a few more questions, and then I want to be able to let us at least meet some of our neighbors who don't know each other. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Gilda Norris. I live in Everett here in Hyde Park, and I own a fabulous boutique on 55th. And so I have a problem. I have two problems. The main problem is parking. Not just because of my business. I've had several customers call me and tell me, Gilda, I would have came in. And I'm a small business. I need every single customer. And I have the residents here, when I first opened up, everybody came in, we're so happy you're here. This is what Hyde Park needs. But I'm not going to be able to stay if I don't have customers. And they call me, they say they cannot park. I also live here in Hyde Park. I own a condo, so I'm paying property taxes, and I can't park. So it's really, really hard. We need zone parking like they have on the north side. And the reason being, we have the museum here, and in summertime, you might as well forget about it. You can ride around for 2 hours. Yeah. After you've worked all day long, and you just want to get in your house, but you have to ride around for 2 hours before you can get in your house because of the beach and the museum. So all along here is really residential, except for my fabulous boutique. So it wouldn't be hard. They have zone parking on the north side.
Yes, ma'am.
Why can't we have it here? And also, there needs to be another grocery store here in Hyde Park after Treasure Island Pubs. Okay. We don't need, Whole Foods is wonderful, we love it. That's a nice boutique-y grocery store, but you can't, well, I know I can't, feed a family at Whole Foods. Okay. Okay, so we need something more. There's plenty of grocery stores that are out there, and I don't understand why, people don't go to these different grocery stores. You may not know about it in the Midwest, but they're great grocery stores, and they're really, really good, fresh food, good for working people, And one more thing I want to know about. How come the north side gets all the money and we don't get anything? I mean, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
And how do you,
Yeah. I mean, why is it so hard to get some of that money?
Well, I think that really comes to our elected official representation. I think they have to make their voices known that we want equity, and we're not receiving our fair share.
So, are you going to fight for zone parking over
Absolutely,
here?
consider it done. All right.
And get a grocery store.
And a grocery store.
And come to my boutique.
And shout out to her boutique.
I know.
The parking for Point used to be free. So everybody could park there for free and also on the street for free. So nobody had a problem. But once that becomes a meter parking, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So
Pay to park at the park.
The bar will be customers, visitors. They want to park on the street because it's free. Nobody wants to park in the parking lot. So that makes us the residents, the shortage of the parking space. And then you come back from work or you come back, after some nice night. You can find any space. But you have to pay parking until next the race starts. Everybody wants to pay that.
It's terrible. It's dangerous.
So please, the incumbent several times, at least make a bounce. If you just make a zone parking, that's fine. At least make a bump so that people don't speed on the street.
Right.
It sounds like it's like the Hunger Games when it comes to parking over
It's
there.
terrible. I mean, I've been cursed out and threatened from people. No, that's my space. You know, who wants to deal with that?
No one.
It's terrible. But also, you know what people do? They come, because through my boutique, my window, I'm watching everything.
Yeah.
They come over here, they drive, they park, they get on the bus and go downtown. Then around 4 or 5 o'clock, you see all the spaces becoming available because they're coming home from work.
You can get a parking anytime, 5:30 to 6 on Hyde Park Boulevard and Cornell.
That's
You can be
right.
sure of that because all the commuters have just gotten off the number 6 and the number 28
That's
buses. They've taken their cars and now I can find 4 places.
Exactly. And it shouldn't be that way.
But you have to be there right at that time because we are enough that we fill it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me take a couple more questions. Who else had a question? Somebody. Did you have one?
Yeah, I wanted to comment on a couple of things where Leslie voted in ways that I have some doubts about, and I want to know your opinion. This was IVI IPO, which unfortunately didn't endorse her, but their list of ordinances, she voted against allowing the Inspector General.
Could you stand up? There's a lot of people that have to hear you, Robin.
Okay, so there were a couple of votes. One was to allow the Inspector General to investigate City Hall programs, okay? And another was to allow them to investigate outside contractors, okay? And she voted for both of those.
She
and
voted against.
Against allowing, but the way the vote was. Okay, she voted against allowing. I'm sorry. Thank you. How would you vote on those things?
I would have voted for it. Yeah, I would have voted for it.
Maybe you can explain it better than I
Yeah, so thank you for that. What's your name again, one more time?
Robin Kaufman.
Robin, you're from Hyde Park?
I'm sorry, yes, I'm from Hyde Park, further west.
So Inspector General Ferguson, I believe, wanted the power to investigate the city council and also their campaign donations to see where they're coming from. The incumbent was one of, I think the Tribune reported about 25, 26 aldermen voted against it. But that was icing on the cake for me because there was a gentleman by the name of Faisal Khan. Please look him up. Faisal Khan was in city council in 2014 and they stripped him of all his resources. He was a city council. We have a city of Chicago Inspector General, and Faisal Khan was the Inspector General specifically for City Council. And he had the power, well at least presumably he was trying to have the power to investigate City Council for corruption and with their campaign donations. In 2014/2015, along with Rahm Emanuel, the City Council stripped him of all his resources. And make a long story short, his resources was ultimately depleted. And I think the FBI came and seized like his equipment and all this information. I think that's how they got the tips about Ed Burke and stuff too. So I would have voted for it. I believe in ethics reform. I just find it so magically, now all of a sudden she wants to be for ethics reform. When she had the opportunity to be for it 2 years ago, she did not. But in the height of all this Ed Burke saga and drama, now she finds it convenient that she wants to be for it. That's something that would have been a no-brainer for me. To vote in favor for it, absolutely. Did you have another question?
No, the other one was there was another vote that was similar, having to do with independent contractors.
Yeah. But that's why I think I wouldn't take any money from developers. You could just end that right there. I don't take any money from developers or corporations. Things like that. Another thing about the incumbent as well, and not just her, but the city council in general, they have voted in favor in the past 12, I want to say about 14 years, right, for close to $1 billion in police misconduct suits and settlements. In the past 14 years, right, Leslie voted for the $5.5 million settlement of Laquan McDonald. She did. Even after Corporation Counsel, Steve Patton, he's no longer there anymore. The Corporation Counsel is the lawyer, he's the attorney for the city. He gets up in front of City Council, say you all out of 50 aldermen. He gets up and tells them what is on this tape. Verbally, tells them, I read the transcripts. He tells City Council what is on this tape. And yet, every single city councilman that day, it was 48, all of them voted in favor for that $5.5 million settlement without asking them to release that tape. And not only did they do it for Laquan, they did it for tens, hundreds of millions of dollars of settlements before that. This is not the leadership that we need. That's not progressive. That's not progressive at all. And it wasn't until we, the community, stood up and said enough is enough. Now they want to inspect every settlement now. The time's up. And it's time for us to move forward. We need to vote her out. But you and I...
That's right.
Grace?
Hi, everyone. I wanted to ask you about teenagers in the neighborhood. So a lot of you know that there is a project right here in the neighborhood that wants to have a safe activity for teens on 53rd Street or somewhere around 53rd Street on Halloween. So Leslie's position had always been, and she said this several times, that she didn't want any bad kids to come in her neighborhood.
Bad kids?
And, right, she didn't want any of those kids to come in her neighborhood. And look, you know, whether you invite them or not, they're going to come, because this is one of the best things about Hyde Park is that it is a safe place. It is an attractive place for teenagers to come around. And some of these teenagers go to school here. They have friends that go to school here. They have friends that live here. So it's not like people from, who knows where coming, right? So what are your thoughts and your plans about engaging teenagers, providing an activity that they can all be able to enjoy, be safe about?
Yeah, that's
and then also be welcome, and at the same time, make sure that property owners and businesses are not afraid about, are not afraid of any vandalism.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you. That's a great question. So
Remember
around that Halloween time, Karen Calloway, I don't know how many people know her. She's the principal of Kenwood High School. She reached out to me, and along with Joshua Gray, he was he's a fifth warder. He's also was a campaign manager for Miss Amara Inya, and they wanted to get ahead of that Halloween. I think because they was trying to do it twice. The young men and women that came on Halloween, and it was very disruptive. But they heard on social media something else was supposed to happen the next day. So Joshua, along with Karen Calloway, I think Ebony Lucas was out there too. We went out there. We went out there to try to disrupt anything that might possibly have happened. And those are preventative measures I think that a good civic leader should be a part of. And I think just working with our community stakeholders, our administrative leaders like Karen Calloway, and making sure that we can plug in with these young men and women with mentorship, like Becoming a Man and other opportunities as well. Also, I didn't have a mentor growing up, so I ran to the streets. So I know how important it is to make sure that you have somebody in your life that can speak life to you, that can guide you. And I want to be that for somebody else, because I didn't have that as well. So just working together as community liaisons and partners, I think together as a community that we can do it. And and while we're here, I think that's a great segue to talk about a little bit more about community violence. Look, I'm a victim of gun violence. I lost my brother to gun violence. My campaign is dedicated to my friend, Darnell One Step. He lost his life in the 5th Ward on 70th and Merrill. He lost his life to gun violence. I know people throw out these ideas and comprehensive gun reform and jobs and stuff like that. I'm gonna keep it, forgive me if I become colloquial, but I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. You can't legislate murder out of somebody's heart. I'm just being honest with you. If somebody wants to do something malicious to you, the gun is the most methodical way to do it, right? We have to find other ways to curb gun violence besides some of the, because obviously it's not working in the city of Chicago. We have to get on the front line. We have to make sure civic leaders are on the front line. I don't see the incumbent or any other elected officials on the front line in communities trying to curb gun violence, but that's something I promise to do. I know on 71st Street, I know a lot of the young men on 71st Street, and I know there's a high likelihood that they can be victims of gun violence, but it's only so much that I can do from this position that I'm in. But when I become alderman, I become more resourceful. I'm able to connect them with more resources, and you have to care about these things. And the elected official we have right now in the 5th Ward, she doesn't care. And that's something that plagues me daily. She doesn't care. She does not care. So.
I'm sorry, I actually have a question. My neighbor is texting me. She wants to. She's watching on Facebook Live.
Oh, we getting views.
A lot of them.
I want to know if you explain how money is allocated in terms of more Hyde Park and how leads South Shore.
Yeah, so that's something. So the incumbent she doesn't do participatory budgeting. She does it on her own. She decides as a sole decision maker where money goes, how it goes, how much it goes. When I'm elected, we will have participatory budgeting. We as a community would decide where money will go and make sure that it's equal, because it's all about equity. I'm not saying that, because what I've come to find out on the campaign trail, we was in South Shore like, Hyde Park get everything, Hyde Park get everything. Then you come to Hyde Park like, she don't do nothing for us. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that perspective on this campaign trail has helped me a lot. But it just goes to show how we need to unite these perspectives together. We need the bridge bill, and that's something we will do once we're elected. Hopefully that answers our question. Participatory budgeting is a key.
And another question is, we probably should get some pastors involved, probably set up meetings with a couple of pastors to mentor these youth. Because I remember that night on Halloween, I stayed on 53rd and Blackstone. It was just total chaos. And then they posted something on social media that to meet at the McDonald's. So we need some pastors and like even some of us to really just sit down and mentor.
Yeah, I agree with Rob. He was saying that we need to pull on our faith-based leaders in the community a little bit more. I think, and that's true.
And churches have resources that they can help.
I go to a pretty big church. I go to New Life Covenant. My pastor is John Hanna. And I had this conversation with him, man, with parishioners of my congregation, that we need to do more. We need to do more. If we're really going to change the status of our communities, all of us have to do more in some way, shape, or form. We can't do everything, and everything is not for everybody. But we do all of us have to try to contribute just a little bit more to change this thing around. All right, one more question. Oh, we got two. Okay, let me get this lady. Oh, I got to have one from you. Go ahead, sir.
Speak up a little bit.
Yeah, short answer.
Can you repeat the question for those who haven't heard?
She.
Are you going to reallocate money are you going to reallocate money so that school resource officers can come back to the school and give them those services? Is that correct?
Yeah. So, what's your name? Tasha? Sorry? Asha. So short answer, yes. As a former teacher, I was a teacher assistant in Chicago Public Schools. One thing that I learned, I was at a school on 103rd, Gwendolyn Smith, on 103rd and Cottage. When I became employed at that school, it became apparent that my position was going to be phased out and AUSL was going to come in and turn the school around. Anyways, after I concluded my position there, I became a teacher assistant as a substitute. And I was subbing all across the city. And one thing that I thought was so interesting is not the homeless population of CPS is through the roof. And that people do not know how many homeless kids are in Chicago public schools that needs to be addressed. But also, schools are in clusters in the city of Chicago. Sometimes you have one therapist that has to go to 5 to 6 different schools. And I think that's egregious. And I definitely think that's egregious. But to funnel money, but see again, that's the conversation around TIFs. Because TIFs was originally created for schools and parks. And that's something that we can funnel. Or even the developers. The developers can also donate to the schools. And that's something that we should, and so any money that the incumbent took hundreds of thousands of dollars from developers since she's been in office. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of salaries that could have been funded to provide these schools with therapists and clinicians throughout. So I will try my best with your help to make sure. And I also want to make sure when I get elected, one thing I think that's not done enough is convening the chairs of the local school councils. I believe it's 12 neighborhood schools in the 5th Ward. Out of the 12 neighborhood schools in the 5th Ward, only 2 of them are performing at level 1. Out of 12. All right? We have to change that. I want us to be the epitome of everything that's right with the city of Chicago. All right? But I have to, again, I need to tug on y'all because we have to do this together. It has to be inclusive. Young man.
Yes, how you doing? Thanks, Brian. Phil Ford, New South Shore, not too long ago. So my question kind of goes back to when you mentioned the 5 point, the money in police settlements that's been spent.
Yes, sir.
So I'm thinking about the debate that happened on Thursday between the 2 mayoral candidates, and they mentioned the answer to violence, the answer to police relations in black communities is community policing. So my question to you, because we know you have a reputation of being an activist that's held police accountable, is what is your idea of quote-unquote community policing, and how in the ward will you hold police accountable? Because I know you're going to be busy. When you become alderman, you're going to be busy, take care of the ward, and you're not going to be able to mobilize hundreds of people like you used to. So what is your idea of holding police accountable?
Okay, so probably I'm gonna just robocall all of y'all to y'all to meet up somewhere. But I think in order for us, listen, when I say CPD, I've been in activism for about 5 years, right? And I've seen gradual steps, right? CPD is far from perfect. It has a reputation of racism, of torture, of injustice, excessive force, all these things that we know. But when I can honestly say in fairness, and I know some people don't like Eddie, but in fairness, I've seen CPD make some positive gradual steps from when I first got into activism, without a doubt. When you talk about community policing, you will have to understand what's the fabric and the makeup of the community first, right? I think it's no secret that CPD has a sketchy reputation in the black community. And I think that one of the things to improve community relations is that we've always said, and I believe this was also in the consent decree, that sometimes the police, the law enforcement should reflect the community, right? On top of that, I also believe in cultural sensitivity training, right? Because sometimes, if Rob gets up and be like, or do whatever, I just he's blowing off steam, he's blowing off smoke. But to somebody else that's not from our culture, that's not from our neighborhood, they don't know Rob has an episode like that. It's a young lady on 71st Street, her name is Peanut, right? Peanut is notorious on the east side, you know what I mean? Yeah. But if Peanut come in my office, she might trip, but I know that's Peanut. I know I don't need to taser Peanut. Exactly. I don't need to get excessive with Peanut. but that cultural sensitivity training. And I also think, again, let me talk about Harif Snoop Augustus briefly. That was like the prime example of field training of de-escalation, right? That situation should not have turned fatal whatsoever. It was because those officers were not properly trained in de-escalation or cultural sensitivity training. Because there's no way that you should have approached Mr. Augustus in the manner that you have, regardless of whether you thought he was armed or not, because this is a conceal and carry state. He could have had 5 guns on him, but you wouldn't have known unless you had to check his conceal and carry forms to even see if it was legal or not. I think that was the prime example of how you could tell that de-escalation training is not a top priority in CPD. The second thing is you should not put rookie cops in communities like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second thing. And that's the first thing I told Eddie when I met with him. Why would you put those rookie cops in a neighborhood like that? I gave y'all statistics earlier. That many people shot on 71st and Chappelle. Why would you put in a hostile environment like that? You should have had never put any probationary officers on a strip like that. So really sometimes to this, with all due respect to Superintendent Johnson and to the rank and file, sometimes it just boils down to common sense. You know what I'm saying? It's just, and the lack thereof. And that's what community policing to me at this point, and I hope I don't sound arrogant to say that, but in all humility, it just boils down to common sense. And just as I will work closely with Commander Hannah, after that episode, I have to be transparent. After that night that Snoop was shot, Chief Waller was out there, Commander Hannah was out there. CPD engaged the community in a very, very excessive way. Me and Commander Hannah have not really spoken since then, but I support her nonetheless because I think she's trying to do her best. But I will work closely with the commander, whoever in 3rd District, because we've been through about 4 or 5 commanders in the past six years. So whoever our commander is, I will work closely with them. I want to bring back when they, I'm sorry, what's it called when they bring the officers outside to do roll calls? Roll calls in the community. I haven't seen a roll call on 71st Street ever.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And that's how you increase community policing. So the officers know Rob, the officers know Will Calloway, the officers know Anne Marie, and you create that partnership. Because right now, CPD is looking like an occupying force that's coming in, right? And we have to eliminate that. So that's some ways. But I could talk about CPD all day.
What do you think about? Because I don't know when it disappeared, but I remember it when I was a child. Junior police program where you had the children come in summer jobs and they worked with the police department from that community. They were from that community and they worked with the police, and in turn, some of the children where they grew up, they went to the police academy, and therefore you started looking like the communities.
I agree, and again, I'm with, and I said this on WTTW before. I think that we need more people of color on the force because it's a large minority base. But I also said if we really want to change the culture of Chicago police, it's 2 things that needs to happen. The one is that we need to start with the youth. I have a mentee that comes into my office every day. His name is Tyler. He's in 8th grade. Mm-hmm. And Tyler does security work at O'Keefe Elementary School. And he laid out a 10-year plan to me that was so dynamic. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about so dynamic. He wants to go to Carver Military School, right? Then after that, he want to go to the Air Force. After he go to the Air Force for 4 years, he said, Will, I want to come back and I want to be CPD or I want to be FBI. I was like, that's nasty. But the fact that he has it laid out, we need 100 Tylers right now. Mm-hmm. And we need to funnel them through that 8 to 10-year plan so they can come back and serve the city of Chicago. And I think that's how we begin to change the culture of the city of Chicago. On top of that, you all listen, when I say we need to change the fraternal order of police contracts, that's something we have to do that right now. That one of the reasons there's no accountability or there's been lack of accountability with Chicago police is because of the FOP, is the police union contracts. They can literally get away with murder because of their contracts. Because of the contracts and not be held accountable. Well, we do things with the Tylers of the world, and while simultaneously reforming the FOP contract, I believe we're going to be okay. We're going to definitely be okay. Yes, ma'am.
Is there something in place that you know of right now? Because every time you hear about a shooting or something, they're vindicated by saying the police felt threatened. Now, you can't be threatened by everything. Okay, you know, they're threatened. And, you know, what is the definition of being threatened?
Well,
you know, we have to get some clarity. We need to get some real clarity on how is a police officer threatened to the point that it's home or whatever, that somehow or another that becomes a threatening item.
Yeah, so there's no definitive answer on how do you describe you being in fear for your life? Because that's what they say. I was in fear for my life. But
that's what they always use.
Yeah, that's something that they always use. I agree. But one thing I can say for certain, since Laquan tape has come out, it has pushed the pendulum on holding police more accountable. And I think with the body cams, with the consent decree that we all need to make sure that we oversee, we're going to see some changes. But as far as that, it's hard to litigate me being in fear for my life. That's something hard to prove. It's really in the eyes of the law, and it really boils down, it's up to Kimberly Fox, which is our prosecutor for Cook County. If she deems that it was a justified shooting or not, right? Because Maurice Granite, he was shot on 47th and Prairie about a year ago, and it was captured on dash cam. He was scaling a fence, saw a police officer, was getting down, and was shot in the back, running. And this is on body cam. Paul O'Neill, and it happened in South Shore as well in 2016. He got shot in the back, wasn't captured definitely on body cam, but he was running from the law. But ultimately, it comes down to the state prosecutor on how she perceives the circumstances of the case. And then I agree it has to be a case-by-case situation, because we do have some people that's breaking the law with guns, right? But it's for a lot of times, Chicago police have been abusing their power and not been held accountable whatsoever. Yes, you're going to be the last question, young man. Right, man. Y'all clap it up for him. That was a very precise opinion that I think a lot of us share. So listen, we're winding down on time. I want to be respectful to everybody's time. Listen, again, we're in a historic moment in the Fifth Ward. On April 2nd, we can make history, right? And I need you. I'm asking on each one of you to call your friend, call your neighbors in the Fifth Ward, okay?
Co-workers.
Co-workers, all right? Business owners of boutiques, all right? All right? Make sure that they know that Will Calloway is the best candidate for this job in the Fifth Ward.
What's the date of the election, and how do we donate money?
Tuesday, April 2nd. That's about approximately 24 days away. Again, how do you donate money? You can go on our website, CallawayFor5.com. You can visit Bobby. He's sitting over there right now. He's the Act Blue account. You can donate. Listen, you all. I have not accepted one donation from one developer. I will not. Everything Everything that we was able to do was off grassroots donations, and I see many of you in here that have donated to our campaign. I need you all to continue to try to help out, pitch in any way that you can. Even if it's not monetarily, come help us phone bank. Come help us knock on doors. There's other ways to support instead of just giving us money. Raise your hand, Rob. Me and Rob knocked on 3,000 doors in the cold. You hear me? 3,000. All right? A couple of my volunteers are in here as well. We phone bank over 5,000 calls. We can do this. The incumbent spent $80,000. Me and Gabe was talking about this earlier, about $80,000 to try to beat both of us and still force her into a runoff. Don't tell me what grassroots cannot accomplish. And we can do that. Not only
real quick for y'all that don't play this political game. The reason why he keeps emphasizing he doesn't take money from developers is because, again, if you go on Sunshine or if you go on state-bordered elections, for Leslie Harrison, and this is somewhat typical with incumbents, especially that's been in 20 years, when you look at her money, it's like developers, unions, and people trying to act like they're developers so they donate as individuals. Like, that's who she gets her money from. So when you hear all of these progressive candidates around the country talk about making pledges that they're not going to take money from developers and that every dollar counts, like, and they need it from the people, that's what that means in real terms. So I'll say all that to say, come see me for y'all. The credit cards with the debit cards. Also come see me with your names. If you want to host a coffee in your community, that's just as important. If you want to host a meeting with your tenant association, your condo association, come see me with your names too. And if you want to support a volunteer or make phone calls, come see me please for y'all dip. I'm going to put y'all in the system real quick and y'all can be on your way, okay? Anything else for you? Okay.
Thank you, Phil, for it. I love you.